Lisa Nee with Eisner Amper, and I have the pleasure today of sitting with Titan Richard LeFrak from LeFrak Industries.
Well, thank you for coming.
So I wish the cameras were rolling before, because we had a lot of great history lessons on your family and your over 100-year history of being in the real estate business. So if you could give us a little bit of a history lesson as to how your family started in real estate and maybe some of the earlier projects and how it's led you to where we are today.
The firm was founded by my grandfather, Harry LeFrak. The firm was really turned into something amazing by my late father, Sam LeFrak. I hope Richard LeFrak did his share to turn it from something a little bigger than he founded. And my two sons, Harrison and Jamie, will hopefully carry on this legacy, or are carrying on this legacy now. And I don't know how long I'll be here, but I know if I'm still here in 20 years, this firm will be bigger, better, smarter than it is today. The actual business was started by my grandfather shortly after the turn of the century. He was an immigrant, came to the United States as a young man, and actually started off as a tradesman. He was a glazier. Oh. He kind of became a small subcontractor, and then, with the intrepid spirit that those immigrants had that came here really to get a better life, I guess he started and did some small developments with partners. He was not an educated man in the sense that he had a formal education, but he was a clever man, and he made his way. And he started building walk-ups and, small projects in Brooklyn, which is where he lived, and that ultimately became this.
You referred to your sons being in the business with you, and you are a second generation, so now
third.
Third generation, so now we're fourth generation.
We are.
And how important is that family legacy to you, and was that instilled right away?
That's the most important thing for me, because I'm not really working for money at this point. Okay, but I have the privilege of having had the experience of working with my father and working with my sons, and for me, that's as good as it gets.
So I think most New Yorkers traditionally know from the big project in Queens, 5,000 units. Is that accurate?
Yes. Well, my dad, who my late dad, who was in many ways, the real genius and driving force behind the company, because he really took it to a completely different level from my grandfather. Recognized after World War II there was a huge shortage of housing for middle-income families, and he had a very intense determination to get things done, and he decided he could do it with very little help from the government, that he would build affordable housing and somehow, through the force of his will, get it done at a price that people could afford, okay, without government subsidies. And he was very, very prolific in the early 50s till his death. And of course, the project he's mostly known for is LeFrak City.
Yeah.
LeFrak City, it's LeFrak, but everybody says LeFrak in New York, so LeFrak City, which was a 5,000 unit apartment complex in Queens on the Long Island Expressway. And of course, when people come from the airports, they say, I went past LeFrak City. And he built that between 1959 and 1968. It contains 5,000 apartments, and we're still very proud to have our name on it. We still own it.
It's amazing.
Okay. And in the last 7 or 8 years, it's been going through a major upgrade and renovation, and actually we've spent almost 3 times as much in restoring it as he did in building it.
Wow.
But it's still a great asset. It's fully occupied. Lovely families still live there. It's kind of a melting pot of New York, with a cross-section of everybody who you would expect comes. People say, Queens is a borough of immigrants, and that we have a big cross-section of the population there, but we're still very proud of it. We have our name on it, and it's kind of a legacy asset that I would never, ever sell, because it's really one of the touchstones of our success and one of the landmarks of our success.
So keeping with the theme of legacy assets that you would never sell, that you were very proud of, as you walk in, you see the entire layout of your New Jersey waterfront project, which I'm not sure people appreciate how massive it is and what a great undertaking. And the new building, Ellipse, which is, we were looking at circular, and just to make sure we note that it's residential and it's not going to be a
Right.
condominium
It's not a
development. If you could
condominium.
talk to us about how you completely redid the waterfront there and what your vision is and long-term.
Well, it was a great opportunity that came our way just by accident. We were the original developers in Battery Park City and built the first big project down there in 1980, when it was touch and go whether it would be bankrupted by the government and by circumstances. And at that time, everybody said, "You're crazy.
Yeah.
Who's going to live downtown?" Pretty funny today when you hear that, but in those days, there was nobody lived downtown. It was Wall Street, you had an office, and that was that. Through, let's say, some miscommunication or hypocrisy from the government officials at that time, we were supposed to continue on and after we built the first 6 buildings and keep going. And they had a change of heart, and we got a random call from a developer in New Jersey, a famous developer, shopping center developer,
Okay.
named Mel Simon, who the giant Simon Company today. And he said, "I have this property in New Jersey on the waterfront, and the bank told me that if I get you guys involved, that they would finance it for us, because there's not too many developers who can take things on of that size." And my late father went out to look at the property and called me on the phone and said, "Richard, you have to come out and take a look at this. It's something I've been dreaming about my whole life." Now, if you saw what he was dreaming about, you'd think he should have been put in a home, because it was just an old railroad yard with abandoned industrial buildings on it, and there was nothing there except it was in Jersey City, which in those days was considered
Yeah.
sketchy at best. But he recognized the potential of being able to create something from scratch of great size, and I went out, of course, and took a look, and it was like being put in the middle of the desert and saying, "Well, where do I start? There's no roads here. There's nothing here. Where's my point in place in my beginning?" But with a lot of hard work, we kind of sketched up a plan and took advantage of 3 things that were part of the landscape there. Number one, it was over a mile of riverfront.
Yeah.
Number 2, it had a big path station that was totally underutilized, that had direct service to downtown and midtown. And it was big enough so that you could create your own community. That was probably 17 or 18 million feet ago. Since then, we've built, 17 or 18 high-rise apartment buildings with
Wow.
about 6,000 apartments in it. I think we have 8 or 9 office buildings, 2 hotels, a regional shopping mall, marinas, parks, recreation, and I think we still have enough land to develop to put another 5,000 apartments on. So it's really we're really not even 2/3 finished with it yet. So for me, it's been a lifetime of work, and I've had the privilege, and I say it's a privilege, of creating a city from scratch.
Yeah.
And I made plenty of mistakes, or we made plenty of mistakes, but we did many, many things right too. And the whole regeneration of the waterfront in Jersey, I believe that we were instrumental in waking people up to the potential. And of course, today, if you stand on the West Side Highway and look across the river, there's a whole skyline.
Yeah. It's
When we
beautiful.
went there in 1982, it didn't look like that. It just wasn't remotely like that. But it took a lot of imagination, a lot of hard work, lots of sleepless nights, But I have to say that my father, recognized the potential, even though at that time he was 65 or 66 years old. So it was a 40-year project, and he was going, let's go for it, and we did, and we've had good luck.
So I want to stay still in the New York area. We're at 40 West 57th today,
Right.
which is a beautiful commercial space. Can you talk to us a little bit about this project and why this location?
We bought this property in 1969. If you were on 57th Street west of Fifth Avenue, you were on the wrong side of town.
Which we are.
Right, we're just west of Fifth Avenue. It was funny, that's just the way the world was. But and so we developed this building, and originally it was for a company called the E.R. Squibb and Company, which was a pharmaceutical company that was now been subsumed, merged in a way. It was a major office project in Manhattan, and it's been very successful, and we owned it since since we built it, and it's another family heirloom that will not ever be sold, or we have no intention of selling it. It's great real estate. Of course, 57th Street is now called Billionaire's Row.
Right.
Some of the best properties in New York are within, half a block walk from here. So we're very proud of this building, and, the fact that we've been able to keep it inside our family.
It's also what urbanization, it's going back to urbanization and what people are looking for in terms of community and what they're looking for. First, everybody wanted to be out in the suburbs, now everyone's coming back.
Well, my joke is always, that's not a joke, the thing I sometimes say at these events when I speak, the millennials did not discover Brooklyn. There were 3 million people that lived there before they showed up.
That's true.
Right? They rediscovered Brooklyn, but it's always been, so yeah, a lot of these neighborhoods that, were, let's say, forgotten have now been revitalized, re-energized. A lot of that is due to the fact that young people are more adventuresome. The world doesn't stop on the east side of Manhattan for them.
Right.
They're willing to go to places like Queens, like Brooklyn, like Jersey City, and say, listen, I can find something there for me too. And as long as they have, let's say, peers and friends and social life and amenities that satisfy them, they're much more adventuresome. And I think that's good, because that's helping the city. It's helping all these cities to revive, let's say, the downtowns and older neighborhoods.
So continuing in the New York marketplace, do you think that people are still, your portfolio was built on affordable housing, right? That's been the mantra of your family.
Well, no, I wouldn't say I would say rental housing.
Rental housing.
That we were affordable in the beginning. Now it's a more
luxury.
Yes, upscale.
Do you think it's increasingly difficult now to have affordable housing in the Manhattan and other gateway city areas?
Yes, it requires lots of changes in the government to, subsidies or other ways because the cost of the bricks doesn't change whether you're selling a condominium for $4,000 a foot or an affordable housing project. The basic cost of the building is the same. So the only thing that can vary is the land and subsidies associated with taxes or other operating expenses that you have, interest, for example. So if you've noticed that the regulatory patterns in every city,
Yeah.
New York, but not particularly all of them, it's increasingly more expensive to build. Okay. It's not a business that lends itself much to technology. I mean, if you watch there is some technology involved, but if you watch how they put bricks up, it's the same way as the Egyptians used to do it. It's not that different. It's a business of hands. There is some ability to standardize things now and to make some technological manufacturing advantages, but it creates a big problem because you now have a whole class of people that just can't afford, based on the salaries and wages that they make, to pay the cost of housing here. And they're expecting, I haven't seen the last set of figures, but I think they're expecting the population of New York to grow by 1 million people in the next 20 years. My question would be, where are you going to put them all? And so you've seen some things which, frankly, reversion. You're seeing these micro apartments now. That's really a reduction in people's standard of living. You used to live in 500 feet. Now I'm going to give you 300 feet to live in. I think there's going to have to be some radical changes in how people look at these things if we're going to accommodate our needs for affordable housing, for accommodating working class people. We have to do that.
So your family name is very synonymous with New York landscape, but in 2008, I think you had your first venture out on the West Coast. I think you have 3 properties, if that's right, maybe more, out in the more than that, in the Los Angeles area with a new acquisition, I think Horizon Hollywood. Can you tell us a little bit why LA and Los Angeles?
Well,
is attractive?
I have two very well. There's several reasons for us. First of all, we have a high concentration of assets in New York, and so we always felt that even though this is still the #1 real estate market in the United States, frankly, it is the #1 real estate market in the United States. But if you think about things kind of the way I do, and I try to anyway, I can't have wouldn't own just one stock. I wouldn't, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. And frankly, I have to say, and it sounds a little trite, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. It's a local business, but the competitiveness of the business is much less acute when you go to these other cities.
Really?
In New York, if there's an opportunity, there's 500 sharks circling.
Definitely.
In LA, it may be 20. That doesn't mean there's not a lot of sharks and talented people out there. There are. And Miami the same way. But it's just not quite as big a focus for the whole development community.
Can you talk about your project out there?
Well, I have several projects out there, but one of my sons worked in Los Angeles for the Hahn Company, Trizec Hahn.
Yep.
And he worked on a project out there called Hollywood and Highland, which is where the Academy Award Theater is. And he got to know Los Angeles pretty well. And so when we started to think about expanding, he had a lot of local knowledge because he had lived out there for a couple of years and kind of had a little feel for the local community. So we bought quite a bit of land in Hollywood when everybody out there thought it was not a good idea. And to me, I looked at it and it reminded me far more of Times Square than it did many of the local, not all, I don't want to be critical. And so we were able to buy some interesting sites, and we did an office building out there, which we leased to Live Nation. And again, I'm not bound by geography because I've had now the experience of working out of town, so I'm not frightened by it. Although New York is still the best market in the country.
Hands down.
Hands down.
So let's talk about Miami a little bit, because you're heavily invested down there, and you've got some wonderful projects going down there in a joint venture with Turnberry, a hotel.
Right.
I'd like to talk about all that. So let's talk about the joint venture project.
Well, I got to Florida in the financial crisis because we were in reasonably good condition in 2008. We were not hung out, and there were certain opportunities that presented themselves at that time, one of which was a recapitalization of a bank in Chicago called the Chorus Bank, and that bank owned 8,000 approximately, or was involved with the development of 8,000 condominium units around the United States, really from Hawaii to Boston. And in that package were about 2,000 in Miami. And the world was bemoaning that Miami would take 20 years to fill up, and we own this interest in these assets, and I was watching all the Latin Americans basically inhale all the condominiums. So I said to my sons, I said, listen, you know something that not too many people know, that place isn't really that sick. Just everybody thinks it's sick. So let's see what else we can buy on the cheap. And we bought two things. We bought the Gansevoort Hotel in a kind of a, I would say, in a distress, and 180 acres of land in North Miami in a distress. And we bought them well. We've subsequently renovated and built the One Hotel South Beach, which is a great property, which I've done with the Starwood Barry Starnlick Fund. And we did the plans for and about to begin construction on Solamia, which is a big planned community in North Miami with the Sofer family of Turnberry. So I'm a big believer in Florida, and it's not too complicated. People vote with their feet. Florida is now the third largest state in the United States. It got there because people voted with their feet. So if my business is serving people, it only is derivative to that. If there's population growth, if there's job opportunities and economic opportunities, then there's room for a real estate developer. We don't generate the activity ourselves. We're derivative of the activity. Florida has had lots of good success. Could be the sunshine. It could be the zero income tax, state income tax. It could be a lot of things. But the answer is that people like to go down there, and that's what we do in the end. We serve people.
So you've been doing some joint venture deals down in Florida, LA. So what have you learned from joint venturing with other groups and partners? Any good savage wisdom?
A lot of it has to do with personalities. Mostly people from New York work harder. I don't know what it is in their DNA about it, but they seem to be a little more intense. It's a local business, and having a local partner sometimes is very helpful because they know their way through the regulatory and political maze that you have to go through. The Sofers, for example, have been great partners down in Miami. They've been an established family down there, own a lot of real estate. I have the experience of doing these big projects, so I kind of help them with that. But I don't know the mayor; they know the mayor. I mean, it's in a metaphor, but I mean, I don't know the local officials particularly, and if I walk in, I might as well come from Mars. They have a history with people; they have credibility. And the same thing, I have a wonderful partner out in Los Angeles, the Kennedy Wilson Company. That we partnered with on some deals, and partners with David Simon, the Simon family, in some retail operations. And so if I don't need a partner for money, they have to be able to give me something we don't have, which is, local knowledge, staff, so forth. So, but that we do it.
Are there any other locations within the United States that you're looking at that you feel is going to be?
Well, we have a portfolio of about 4,000 apartments on the West Coast. Seattle, I'm very high on. I just was out there last week. What's going on there between Microsoft, Amazon, Starbucks. It's an amazing city. People like it. Young people like it. They're getting the human capital. And the human capital is the key to all the, that's it. The businesses need the people, and the people, if that's a good place for them to be, and it attracts good young people, then that's the way they're going to succeed. So I'm very, very positive about that market too.
So I don't think people realize, I think people associate you with real estate, but you've sort of diversified a little bit, and have some investments in oil and mineral rights, and I think banking you alluded to as well. Can you
Yeah.
talk about some of your other interests?
Well, we started investing in the oil business in 1972. I have an office in Houston. It started out as an investment, and it became a business.
Real working.
Real business, and it's a fundamental business. Energy is a fundamental business in the United States. Originally, we used a lot of energy, so it was kind of a hedge.
Is that what drew you as a hedge?
If I made it and I needed it, then if it got expensive in one place, it cost me money. I made money in the other area, but it's its own thing now. And we've had good success with it. We've benefited a great deal from technology. Most people in the real estate business don't understand how astounding it is, how they can actually take a drill bit and make it go that way, and how they were able to actually change geopolitical, let's say, history with the technology that was basically invented here in the United States. It's extraordinary what they're able to do now. And that's why we are the world's largest oil producer.
So is that also a long-term hold for your family, being in the oil and energy business?
Well, we've been in it since 72, so how many years is that?
Long.
So I guess it is a hold. Yes, it's a good business. And usually, again, it's a little bit of an offset because, if they're doing great down there because prices are high, everybody else is suffering. And,
Right.
I'm not doing so well down there means I'm doing okay here. And the banking business, we got involved with 2 bank bailouts during the financial crisis. One was Bank United in Florida, which was another reason I got down there, and the purchase of the assets of the Chorus Bank. And we also ended up being one of the founding shareholders of a startup bank in London called Metro Bank, which we still own a significant interest in. So, we kind of, maybe I'm not a real estate developer. Maybe we're just family of opportunists, because we're willing to take on things, interesting things, and not afraid to try new ideas and new businesses. And a lot of that also has to do with the next generation, because they're a lot smarter than I am, and we're not as hidebound, and so they have the ability to make decisions and to try interesting and other things to do. I mean, still, real estate is still the fundamental. That's the fundamental driver here, for sure. But we're open-minded.
So you were quoted on the morning of Brexit vote that you thought that was going to be good for the United States and good for capital coming into the U.S. Do you still feel confident that that's a good thing for the U.S.?
Yeah, I don't believe that the full weight of that decision has really been felt in the UK yet. I think that there are serious implications. There's a complex negotiation that has to take place, and that there's a chance that a significant portion of the financial service business will have to relocate from London. And that's going to have a significant effect on their economy. Now, maybe they can wiggle through, okay, and they do have the natural advantage of, the English language, the history of having an infrastructure to support the financial service business over there.
Right.
But if the feeling in Europe is that if you let one out without any, scars,
Yeah.
you'll let a lot of them will be leaving.
Right.
Then I don't think it's going to be that easy on all of them. And remember, you can. It's a little bit parallel in New York. you know, the financial service business is one of many industries that we have, but it's the high-paying one, right?
Yeah.
You know, you can work in the hospitality business and you don't make the same amount of money as some investment banker or trader on Wall Street. They're both jobs.
Right.
The high-paying jobs, a lot of them in London, are related to the financial service business. So you're taking that wealth out, and it's going to affect the economy there. But again, it's too very early in the game. You know, they still haven't had the, you know, the 2-year announcement and all the things that have to be digested. And you know, I'm sure there's going to be some very active negotiations with the rest of the EU over, you know, what status they'll be in.
So there's been a lot of talk about where we are in the cycle, what inning we're, however people want to phrase it, what inning we are in, where we're at. And I think a lot of people are afraid that in 2017 there's going to be some sort of market correction for this wonderful growth that we have had over the last couple of years. Where do you feel that we are, and are you still very optimistic
Well,
for U.S. real estate?
you know, we're living in the low interest rate environment here. Now, if I don't know what normal is. In my career, I've seen 0 and I've seen 20% interest. So what's normal? I know wherever we are, we're on the low side of normal right now. And now a lot of transactions were motivated by, let's say, the cost of capital. But in the end, you still have to have enough demand to justify whether you're building condominiums, office space, retail, multifamily, all of those things. They still need a customer in the end. So my own feeling is that in many markets now, they're saturated. They're saturated.
Yeah.
Maybe too many condos, too much retail, too many hotel rooms, you know. So you have to curate where you want to be and say, well, I want to be in a market where there's still some demand, and that the economics of the transaction, whether it's a purchase, a development thing, that the economics don't rely completely on these interest rates. Okay, so think of it as that's kind of the whipped cream on the cake. Gee, I got to borrow the money for 3.5 or 4% interest. You know, is there a fundamental need for whatever it is that you're investing in, and will you have a customer at some price? And so I would say I would give you an uneven answer and say it's probably the 9th inning in a lot of markets, and it may be the 3rd or 4th inning in other markets,
Okay, that's fair.
depending upon how aggressive people have been. Okay?
And how important of a role do you think technology is taking in the real estate industry? Do you think they're behind and embracing it enough, or is there something out there that excites you?
Well, here's you know, certainly the retail business has been just disrupted by Amazon. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking around the room at you and your colleagues here, and I'm saying, how many of them didn't get a package from Jeff Bezos today? Probably not
0.
too many. So we know that the retail business is actually being transformed radically. But also offices are being transformed now radically because nobody has a file.
Yeah.
Everything's in the cloud. And, you know, I always, when I don't have it with me, but I often will show my smartphone and I'll say to people, I don't know, is this my office?
Yeah.
So technology is certainly changing the demand and the use of commercial space. Now, the one thing that remains intact is the cave, because they haven't figured out how to put a kitchen and a bathroom in an iPad yet, right? So the cave is still fundamental, the desire for somebody to have a home, a place to hang up their clothes.
Yep.
So the residential business is still good, although, you know, they're scratching at the surface now with some of these, you know, what I call kind of couch surfing concepts, sharing.
Yeah.
You've also seen a hotel business get turned on its head by Airbnb.
Yeah.
So real estate is being affected by technology, okay? But I don't think we know the depths of it in all the areas yet. But it's severe, at least with respect to the retail. For sure, we know it's pretty acute.
And are you making accommodations for this on your new projects? Are you thinking about how you're
Well, we're building
planning?
in Solomia. We're building a shopping center, but it's just not. It's they call lifestyle. A lifestyle center. A lifestyle center is an experiential place,
Okay.
not a traditional shopping center. Because if you want a pair of socks, you get them on Amazon.
Right.
So you have to create an experience for people. So it's more restaurant centric, activity centric. You got to build a bowling alley and the movie theater that they bring the food to you.
You lay back in the seat.
Yeah, lay back in an airline chair and
Yeah.
they bring the food. You have to build a great, kind of park or amenity to draw people. You have to make it very walkable, very friendly. It's not what they used to do.
Right.
Okay, so yes, we have to adjust for that.
So I see there's such passion in you and what you do every day, and I know there's passion because you're very philanthropic. So what charities do you go out there and support and are very, I'm sure every charity, but is there something out there from?
Well, something I'm particularly proud of now is that the skating rink in Prospect Park,
Yeah.
which I love charities or philanthropy that affects that has access, the public has access to.
Yeah.
And we had the opportunity to make the naming gift for the big skating center in Brooklyn in Prospect Park.
What's the full name?
It's called LeFrak at Lakeside.
Okay.
LeFrak.
LeFrak.
In Brooklyn, it's LeFrak.
In Brooklyn, it's I want to make sure everyone understands that.
Right,
In New York,
right.
it's LeFrak.
Right. It's been widely popular. It's a magnificent facility. It won a design award as a civic improvement, and it's great to go out there and see little kids enjoying themselves. It's family.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's family sport. We support. I personally have been vice chairman of the Museum of Natural History. Again, that's a very accessible philanthropy. My wife's on the board of the New York Philharmonic. My son's on the board of New York Hospital. So, I mean, we have a whole bunch. Of course, I support Amherst College, where I went to school, and we have a variety of philanthropies that we support. But the thing that I enjoy the most are things that the public gets to use. That's what I like, because I think that's important, that people understand that no matter how much success you've had or wealth, that you want to use it, that everybody has access to or enjoy something, whether it's knowledge or going to Museum of Natural History, skating rink, you name it.
So is there anything that keeps you up at night, or nothing keeps you up at night, or everything keeps you up at night?
My wife's dogs keep me up at night.
Your wife's dogs, not your dogs.
No, I mean, yeah, I'm of course every place that I'm working in, you can find a reason to worry.
Yeah.
In other words, Miami is going to be underwater any minute. In New York, I'm going to get a terrorist attack. Los Angeles is going to have an earthquake. I mean, you can find things to fret over. But if you're a real estate developer especially, everything you're doing is being an optimist about the future.
Right.
I mean, I take on a project in Miami that's going to take me 20 years to do. Am I going to be pessimistic about something? I have to say, yeah, there's going to be bumps along the road, but I have confidence that in the life of this project, this can be successful. I mean, so yes, I've seen horrible things. I mean, we've all witnessed some, whether it's the financial crisis, 9/11, all these terrible things that, have affected people in all kinds of ways. 1982, 2002 when the interest rates was sky through the moon. Everybody was complaining, and you know, there's a lot of tragedies out there. But if you're a real estate developer, if you're not optimistic, don't go in that business because you can't take your temperature. If you want to have your temperature taken every day, there's a place. It's called Wall Street. You can go to Wall Street and they'll take your temperature every day. You can open up the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, look at your stock position, and you'll know how you're doing. I never know how I'm doing until the end. You know, I have to
You're doing
wait.
great.
I have to wait till the end. I can't. In the middle, I don't know how I'm doing. I have to just wait till the end. You can't change your mind when you're building a city or you're building a building. You can't say in the middle, "Never mind." You're committed, so you have to be an optimist.
So I want to thank you so much for sharing the afternoon with us and on your insights on real estate, and more specifically telling us about your family and your history. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.